My people, it is a very painful thing to remember Asaba massacre. Asaba massacre, seeking healing. A lot of Nigerians don't know what happened. 7th October 1967, a lot of atrocities happened in the land of Asaba. Nigerian soldiers committed a lot of atrocities.
Anya mohona anya bianage say non the meeties. That is goodbye till we meet no more.
During Biafra War, Nigerian soldiers gathered all the male child and adults in Asaba and massacred them all. They killed many people. They killed both adults, all the male child for inside Asaba.
1970. Anya biaka ije zutande aya Nigeria. Bia bulegu. Anya mara no bo a game of death ka iba n'imia.
In remembrance of Asaba massacre, on the 7th October 2022, we be sit at home in entire Biafra land. On that day, it is expected that all schools, all markets, all churches, all banks will shut down for the remembrance of Asaba massacre. Anybody where hear my voice, making talk to a brother, making talk to a sister, making one in children, making one everybody, where they close to them. This order is coming from Biafra spokesperson Simon Epa. Asina nti adahari ebubisi ise soloya intiminsi. Any ear, when they hear word, as they cut head, and so they go cut ear, full
They open fire. We will go machine gun, Gahube our people. And they were slaughtered in thousands.
Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are joining from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much, and remember.
But let me first harvest the views of Mr. James Agbama, who is with me right here in the studio, on what he thinks about the entire package of this budget.
Thank you very much. My first reaction has to do with the continuous fiscal deficit all over these years. It's a huge amount. We have not been able to scale it down. We have continued to increase it. And if the deficit is so much, that means that we have to go to the international market, to the local market, and even to central bank to borrow money to execute the budget. And if that is happening, we are going to flood the market or the economy with so much of money. And now make CBN to go into what is called mopping. And CBN have to mop these things out because at their own cost. So fiscal deficit will increase our borrowings. Already we have borrowed so much, even though the government said that's the only happy note I have, that they've been trying to pay. The payment mechanism they have been trying to pay to meet up. But eventually, when more resources are sent outside the country and to build the other countries, and we are now suffering it, then of course, where are we going? So the fiscal deficit will lead to more borrowings. And more borrowing means that we will be indebted. And indebtedness means that future generation will suffer it. They have to pay back.
We're looking at a budget expenditure of 20.51 trillion naira. That's what's been proposed. Of course, the president did admonish members of the National Assembly to try not to review this budget too much upwards. That is, don't add too much to this budget as we have seen in the past. But if looking at that 20.51 trillion naira and looking at a deficit of about over half of that amount,
that's right,
10.78 trillion, and with new borrowings going to finance that deficit of about 8.80 trillion naira, one begins to wonder how the economy is expected to grow in that regard.
Yeah, the economy would not, because first, you don't just borrow for borrowing's sake. You borrow to repay. And you must monitor any project you are putting the borrowed funds into, so that you know that you are realizing it. By the time you are paying and you are realizing it, you'll be okay. But from all these years, the debt has been accumulating, rising to high levels. And so if we borrow again, that means that the quantum will jump up again. And then that means that the stock of the debt versus GDP growth versus revenue will be a hell. And in that case, people will suffer repaying these debts in future. That is the truth.
Mr. Okuku, what are your thoughts on that? That half of the proposed budget is built on a deficit that would require the government to borrow 8.80 trillion naira to finance that deficit.
Now, like I said earlier, see, whether we like it or not, it's just a reality that we are faced with as a nation at this point in time. One, you must continue to fund most of your critical infrastructure to support that which is going to help you industrialize the nation. Now, yes, it's also very crucial for us to know that, you see, when we put out, information out, put out information like it is going to be a huge issue actually to repay some of these funds, all we actually need is just strategic leadership that will be able to give us what it takes using the lifelines that we have. We have lots of when it comes to economic development, there are things that are lifelines. These are natural things given to you to actually re-engineer your economy and make sure that you have enough liquidity in your economy. There are things, solid minerals, we have an untapped economy when it comes to solid minerals. Even the oil sector, we have not even been able to add value to the oil sector. The agriculture, there's so much that we have not done as a nation. Even the service industry, we are still, backward. What I'm just saying is, if the next administration comes and then we have very strategic leaders, some of these debts won't be a problem. Like the railways that we have built, some of the monies that have been borrowed. How much have we made out of it? Are we going to be, selling our train tickets at the price we're selling our train tickets, and then we are not able to repay those? These are things that should be able to repay itself over the years, because they're long-term loans. So going forward, I still think the issue is being able to plug some of these areas where we have not looked at, being able to add value, being able to industrialize. And again, we're still at the point where serious countries don't fund their budget from proceeds from oil rents. They fund their project from taxes. Our tax to GDP is still less than 10%. That is wrong. That is too low for you to fund your budget. So in reality, if we have more people in the tax net, if we begin to apply artificial intelligence when it comes to being able to get everybody to pay taxes, and then having our tax laws looked at again, myself and Dangote, sorry to use that, use the name, I'm just trying to say the poor, the middle class and the rich cannot be paying the same thing. I have never seen it happen anywhere. It's the more you earn, the more you pay. So those are the realities. We need to look at how to, restructure our tax system so that, one, the tax net has to be increased. Two, we need to also be able to have a balance where even a housewife should be able to be contributing to the national treasury. So by the time we get all these things right, I don't think it's going to be a problem to repay some of these loans. But what we should pay attention to is making sure that those funds are applied appropriately, not borrowing to just consume, but to make sure that those borrowing are for projects that will impact the economy invariably.
Right. If you take a closer look at the budget, you see that the non-oil revenue aspect of it seems to outweigh the oil revenue, whereas the projected oil revenue is 1.92%. The non-oil revenue is standing at projected at 2.43 trillion, rather 1.92 trillion to 2.43 trillion. And then, of course, there is also the independent revenue side of it, which stands at 2.21 trillion. Is that something to cheer about? Yes. That we are not building our budget solely on oil income?
Yes. Yeah, that has always been the conversation, how to diversify the economy, move the economy, an oil rent economy. Now, see, but that also means that, yes, we have done, it's possible. It shows that it is actually possible to actually increase our revenue, away from oil. So, but we need to actually look at it critically and see what are the things that we have done and what are the efforts that we have made, and then we'll be able to increase some of these efforts to make sure that the non-oil revenue, there's a huge increase. I'm talking about, see, I give a very simple example. Chicago Airport makes more money than NNPC. That's an airport in one state in the United States of America. So it goes to show that there are things that you can do to have a lot of income and revenue for a nation. So I always use this as an example. We are, as a country, the largest producers of cassava in the world. Thailand is the second largest producer of cassava in the world. Nigeria earns less than $100 million from cassava, while Thailand, the second largest producer of cassava, earns about $2 billion from cassava. So it goes to show that if you add value to what you have, if you're able to, become a major participant in the global, you become a global player when it comes to global value chain. You earn more resources and you earn more money, and then revenue, it's actually it becomes a revenue source for the nation. So these are things I think we need to look at and make sure that we're on the right track.
All right, let's bring in Dr. John Isemede, who's joining us now. He is the past Director General and CEO of NASIMA, former consultant to UNIDO. Dr. Isemede, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right. I'm sure that you have had a glance at the budget as presented by Mr. President a few hours ago to the National Assembly. What are your first thoughts?
Oh, thank you very much. The first thing is to educate Nigerians that a budget is a financial estimate of income and expenditure, so that Nigerians will not be carried away that we have a budget or money in place of 20.5 trillion to share. If you look at the budget, historical, it has been targeted as a budget of transition. Because in this country, we take more of politics today than production and adding value to our lives. If we look at Nigeria with a population of over 210, we are having a budget of 20 trillion. If you divide that by the exchange rate, is it up to 30,000 US dollars? These are the questions. And you are looking at the oil, the mainstay of the economy. We are not taking of orders. We are not taking of the MDAs. We are not giving targets, leakages here and there. A country that could not produce 1.3 million with the subsidy and oil tax, we are targeting almost 2 million barrels per day. And if we divide that by the population and all that, it's a clear indication that Nigeria is still a very poor country because your take is not up to 200 naira per day. Looking at the budget, the capital expenditure is 5.3. But if you take debt servicing, deficit and borrowing, what is left out of the 20? And we have a program in place where no export is less than 2 billion. And we are dreaming that we are talking of T200 that will be making 200 billion in a year. If we look at the entire scenario, the private sector, will they get dollar at the rate of 435? These are the things. What we should be thinking is not the figure, because it's an estimate.
Appear to be having some problems with the Zoom. We hope that we are able to get back to it. So I'll direct that question at you. The recurrent expenditure, including recurrent costs and personnel costs, both of which.
And then the major players are saying that the price of oil is going too high, and therefore they should cut. OPEC is saying cut production. Other oil producers are saying cut production. What are they trying to do? So that they can get value for their oil and then meet budget constraints. But these other ones that do not have that need, they don't feel it because they have done the right thing in their economies. And they are producing much of this fuel in their economies, and they don't feel the impact. So the right thing to do is that we should prioritize the economy, look at the areas that we should invest in, and somebody should be made to put his feet down and make sure that these things work.
All right, let's go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at other aspects of the budget. For instance, the projected inflationary rate of 17.16%, and of course, let's also look at the projected daily oil production of 1.69 million barrels, and how that is going to help to fund the 2023 budget. Stay with us.
Did you know that AIT's social media handles have all changed? If you are one of the millions of our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, this is introducing to you AIT's new official and rebranded social media handles. Like or follow us now on our Facebook page, Official AIT Live. If you're on Twitter, switch to our new handle at Official AIT Live and activate the notification button to get breaking news and updates on the go. For exclusive short videos and photo news, follow our Instagram account at Official AIT Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Official AIT Live, and enjoy live streaming of news and your favorite programs, where you can also watch our broadcast materials at your own convenience. Note that Official AIT Live is the only authentic social media profile name with all the handles on our website ait.live, with a notification prompt to accept and receive breaking news and updates on the go. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube platforms on your smartphone, tablet device, laptop, and desktop to follow us now.
To buy a loaf of bread, but now we have to use almost over 400 naira to buy a loaf of bread. So the real value of the money will go down. While even though they give you all the monies of this world, and the real value is going down, then you discover that inflation is a cankerworm.
Okay. Well, let's reconnect with Dr. John Istemede. Okay, Dr. Istemede, let's take off from where you stopped.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So what I was saying is that, we have a budget of 20 trillion. And
you may need to kill the audio of your TV set there, Dr. Istemede, so that we can hear you properly.
Whether the budget is a flexible budget,
Dr. Istemede,
deficit budget, balanced budget, padded up is what we have to look at. We have to educate the private sector, because we need a policy to drive the economy, not a policy of borrowing from others who are producing and sending to us. Let me give you 5 examples where we can fund this budget, because my own area of concern is not just the figure. How do we fund this budget? What of Nigerians working abroad, in line with what the Asians are doing, taking money to their countries? It could be another source of revenue instead of borrowing. What of agriculture? We are #1 producer of more than 10 different items or produce, which we are not adding value. What there is from palm oil is more than what NMPC is giving to us. can we look at the agricultural sector, develop the value chain, you create jobs and tax people, the solid minerals, the construction industry, and finally, what of investment? Nigeria has signed more than 600 agreements with the rest of the world. How many Chinese companies do we have in Nigeria? How many Indian companies? How many South African companies? Then let's now consider how many Nigerian companies do we have in South Africa. When we are talking of foreign trade, we are talking of foreign policy, we are talking of economic diplomacy, we are talking of trade policy and all that. Where do we place Nigeria? In the sense that we cannot have a budget of 20 billion. Half of it will go into debt servicing, borrowing, and other things. Because Mr. President said we are still in the threshold, which is 40% of what we are borrowing vis-a-vis our GDP. But other countries, where they have 55%, the example that was given, vehicles are not queuing at Lokoja. People travel freely. And the exchange rate is not at this ridiculous level. If we are producing, we are adding value, and we are able to develop the value chain like what the Chinese have done, like the Chinatown, a lot of inflow will be coming into this country. This is what the private sector wants to see. It's not giving us an exchange rate of 437. And at the end of the day, if the private sector wants to secure spare parts, raw materials and all that, you are now asked to go to the black market. What is a black market? Are we running this economy with exchange rate of about 10 to 15? These are the issues which we discuss, not the value of the budget, because there is no money on the table now. Based on what we have seen, we have to generate money to run this country, not borrowing.
All right, Mr. Okuku, the president says that the subsidy regime is not a sustainable one and it must be discontinued in 2023. What is the alternative in your view?
For me, the alternative we just hold on. If we use this period to make sure that we get our refineries to start working, make sure that if there's any support that Dangote refinery needs, we are stuck with that particular project. We must make sure that it starts working for national development's sake. And if we then the next thing will now be to see how we can ease off the subsidy regime by having a more strategic, targeted support program that would target the agri sector, those sectors that when inflation begins to hit the economy, it will affect the entire economy. So we'll begin to, design programs that will support, even if it's a transport system. There has to be a way where I thought that it would have been easier for the subsidy regime to be managed properly, where there are certain, AI applied to maybe transport companies, still, being subsidized. You can still subsidize the transport companies using AI to make sure that those there are specified gas stations that will be able to dispense fuel to tractors, trucks, and transportation companies. That and then the AI is to make sure that that particular distance of PMS you receive is recorded. If not, you'll be penalized if you try to do any. These are things that can be properly planned. So those who take goods from one place to the other are the ones who can still buy fuel at subsidized rate, but no. Pretty much, these are few things that I think the regime, if we're able to manage the regime properly, we can't just take out the subsidy. If you take the subsidy out, it's going to be a huge problem on the economy.
If even 7.5 years or thereabout, the government has not been able to fix the refineries as you anticipate that they could do between now and the end of their administration. If in 7.5 years it's not been able to do so, where is the guarantee that that will happen in less than 7 months?
I can't give guarantees. All I'm saying, I'm speaking from an economic development point of view, that these are the actual things that can happen to have, that subsidy regime, taken out of the economy, because I mean, it's really sucking the economy dry. So I'm saying in real terms. But I think the Minister of Petroleum said, was it the NNPC GMD that said in the next few months that the refineries will start working? So, I mean, if we're going by what they have said, it's not a private company now, so they should be able to, acquiring the Oando, that downstream structure also means that they have something in their plate that they are, in the kitchen that they are working on. So, for me, I believe, I just hope that is realizable. And then if that is realizable, I think it will help a lot.
All right, Dr. Esemede, on a final note, if we are looking at 1.92 trillion naira oil revenue in the face of the very massive oil theft that is ongoing right now in the oil industry, which of course the president promised to address during the remaining part of his administration, do you think we can meet that target? Dr. Esemede.
Is that from me? Okay.
Dr. Esemede appears not to hear us, but let me direct that question to you here in the studio. Yes, 1.92 trillion naira oil revenue for 2023 in the face of the massive oil theft that is ongoing right now. In fact, a few days ago, it was reported that there was a discovery of a 4-kilometer pipe that's been siphoning oil illegally out of this country. Now, in the face of that, do you think that they can meet that target from oil revenue source?
Well, let me not say we can meet or not we cannot meet. There are two things about it. Number one, the theft, the magnitude of that theft. Can it really bring down our oil revenue? That is number one. Because the 4-kilometer distance that they did, I don't know the quantum of oil that they are selling. We have to get the facts right before we now see how it will impact on the magnitude of the oil revenue. On the other side, every little theft that takes place is wrong. So whether there is a magnitude or no magnitude, we should get everything as it is produced and sell it. So if people now go about stealing it and then we are just watching, it's not proper. That's just the truth. So every little amount we can get from that quantum
of what is
theft, what is stolen, we should get it into the national coffer.
Okay. All right. Well, Dr. Esemede will just, if you can hear us now, let's have you have the last say here on the program, because we are running out of time very fast.
With this budget and the multiple exchange rates, I don't think we can I don't think we can grow the economy by 3.75%, because economic growth is different from economic development.
Yes.
And with the level of our education and what is happening in the educational sector, there's going to be a slowdown. Another issue, we are talking of inflation. And we are importing food. Nigeria should not be a country importing food. We should be exporting food. So the growth or the inflation may not go down soon. Finally, a country of over 200 million, over 33% are unemployed. How do we create jobs to get inflow? To be the priority, in the sense that 33% of over 200, we are talking of about 700 million Nigerians who are jobless, who have no job at all. And for 70 million people, if you assemble them in one place, we'll be the 4th largest country in Africa. So these are the issues. It's not, I'm not here to tell you about figures. I am here on behalf of the OPS. Let us look at the way to generate revenue. Let us give targets to the MDAs, and let us now know how to manage our income, not multiple exchange rates, not people standing at the bus stop, not extortion. Because even when the government moved the VAT from 5% to 7.5%, the impact was not much because those who are paying this state is not enough. Because in this country, tax to GDP prior to that was only 5%. Now it's about 7.5% to the GDP. We need to work internally to create jobs, stop borrowing, and give targets to people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. John Isemede, as immediate past Director General and Chief Executive Officer of NASIMA, and a former consultant to UNIDO. UNIDO, of course, being an agency of the United Nations. Thank you for your time. And Ogbona Okuku is an economist. He joined us via Zoom from Lagos. Thank you, Ogbona, for giving us your time today. Thank you so much. And right here in the studio, Mr. James Sagbama, an economist and former director of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. All right, that's our program for today. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remain blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.